We're now joined by international relations expert Chris Blackburn. Thank you so much for speaking to NDTV. And relations between India and Canada have just hit, its lowest level ever. But Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, they're reiterating his allegations against India, but then once again not offering any evidence to back it up.
Yes, thank you for having me. I think there was a new development that happened last night. The Canadian Broadcasting Company, the Canadian state broadcaster CBC, put out an article by a guy called Evan Dyer and a guy called Alexander Panetta, where they claimed that the Canadians have signals intercepts from Indian diplomats in Canada. And they also say that they got some of this information from a third party that was a part of what they call the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, which is basically the English-speaking intelligence services. We've got Canada, the US, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. So I think this new development is basically Canada saying we've got the evidence. So I think how they move forward is going to be very dicey. And I think that the Canadian sort of strategy to bring in a third party into this diplomatic mess is highly irregular. But we shall see what the evidence is, if they've indeed got any.
We've seen that article here, of course. It's again, a sources-based article, with various claims and but nothing that one can really depend on or quote. So yes, perhaps information being released from official sources in this soft manner into the Canadian media to back up what Justin Trudeau is saying. But so far, the way relations currently are with India, stopping issuing of visas over there. It doesn't seem any efforts, really being made to normalize the relations. And given the kind of allegations Justin Trudeau has made, he has to, of course, at some point back them up. So how do you see this, developing further?
Well, I think that Justin Trudeau, the onus is, as we know, it's on the Canadians. Justin Trudeau decided to drop this bombshell in Parliament. There was no evidence. He said there was credible allegations. So now within days we've seen a change, and now we're seeing that there's intelligence, there's credible intelligence from a Five Eyes partner. So I think as this story develops, the onus is still on Canada to prove that the Indian government used its agents to murder a radical from the Khalistani movement within Canada. So I think the diplomatic situation will probably end up getting worse as Canada digs in. And I think the Indians have basically put out a sort of a plan where they're saying, well, you need to provide us evidence, and we're going to react in turn, because this is an unprecedented situation. Even when we look in the past at such as the killing of Jamal Khashoggi in Turkey, or we saw the Mossad hit in Dubai a few years ago, where we had sort of video and CCTV evidence of Israelis conducting a hit on a Hamas terrorist in Dubai. So whether or not Canada's building up a case and is ready to go public with it, we simply do not know. However, I think this leak by the CBC, this exclusive, saying that basically Canada has the information and they've got the intelligence, that they've got the direct communications from Indian diplomats, yes, further raises the stakes.
All right. And finally, your comments on, the United States so far, its comments on this entire controversy and this diplomatic row. They're saying they're watching, both sides very carefully, and also making the point that they support Canada's efforts on this investigation.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it puts everybody in a very difficult position. Over the last sort of decade, India has been saying this is a growing threat from Khalistanis, and they're in the diaspora. They're in the UK. In fact, they're in mainly the Five Eyes countries, the Khalistanis. So I think what will happen is these countries are taking the threat seriously, and Canada has dragged its feet. So I think what we're going to see is a more tit for tat in the future. And I think other countries, especially the United States, are going to be very careful of how they deal with it, because they know that India provides a lot more opportunities, and we don't want to rock the boat. So I think the USA knows India is globally important, And I think, yes, they will provide a look. They will say, we support the Canadians to have an investigation. Everybody does. I mean, that's just as fact. But I think the USA will be very careful in future.
All right. And, this has been a long-standing issue that India has had with Canada, providing this sort of platform to Khalistani extremists, the kind of statements that are made there, and especially in recent days, the kind of actions we've seen of, temples being defaced or diplomats being Indian diplomats being threatened there. And even the parade, carrying, the Indira Gandhi's assassination was being depicted during that parade. So this has all been very offensive. I mean, we've been seeing this increasingly happen in Canada, and no action taken by Canada, and it's all forgiven under this blanket freedom of expression. Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, as we're moving forward, India's security is our security. That is the very basis of a partnership. So a lot of countries like the USA, the UK have said that pro-Khalistan extremism is on our list of to-do subjects. So I think the rest of the sort of the global north or the Western world know that Khalistan, and we know that the problems that there is, and we also know that Canada has been a sort of an incubator, a safe haven for these radicals. When we know that the people in the Punjab and Sikhs in India, 95% according to Pew Research, say that they are proud of being Indians. They don't want separatism.
Right, so it's not an issue here anymore. Yes.
Yeah. So the diaspora in Canada and their activities, not just on the propaganda, but financing and actual terrorism, Canada has a problem. And even if we go looking back in history to the bombing of Air India 182 and the Canadian government's own inquiry in 2010, Canada has a Khalistan problem, and the rest of the world knows that.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris Blackburn, for speaking to us here at NDTV.